Hey everyone, how are you out there? Happy April. Uh, Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday and I'm doing a tag. Who am I? But it's April Fool's Day, so maybe not. I don't know. Am I really doing a tag? Oh, I am. I am really doing a tag. I'm here today to do the spoiler tag. I was tagged a long time ago, possibly years, I don't know anymore, by Angelia at Read and Reread to do this tag that was created by Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. And this tag was going around. Yeah, it was probably maybe a month, 6 weeks ago. Everybody was doing this tag. So, of course, here's me bringing up the rear. And mainly because yesterday I tried to do a March wrap up video and I actually did it 3 times and just could not make it work. I didn't. I, I just. I thought that I nailed it. Like the last one on the last one, I thought that I nailed it, and then I watched it this morning and I was like, no. What are you even talking about? No, you can't say that. Don't talk about that. That's which is kind of, I guess, it kind of leads to the tag today, the spoiler tag. So, without further ado, thank you to Angelia for tagging me, and let me get started. The prompts first is, what do you consider a spoiler? That's a that's a tough question. That is, why is that such a tough question? I think partially it's a tough question for me because 9 times out of 10, I don't care about spoilers personally. I, it doesn't always necessarily matter to me. Like, first of all, I think it's the type of book that I like to read. I don't read a lot of mysteries, I don't read a lot of series, so to, you know, I'm not worried about finding out who the murderer is. And I don't know, like, I'm just not really worried about spoilers. I'm more worried about how a book gets something done and the prose than I am about really, like, if I know the plot or not. And the only reason I say that is because I feel like I tend to I like to reread and I like to rewatch like movies and TV series. And if something is really well executed, then no matter what, even if I know what's coming, I still get that the emotions that come with certain plot points or certain things that are going to happen, uh, the things that the author or the director or whoever does to sort of make me feel suspense or make me feel anxious or make me feel hopeful, that all still works. It all always still works for me. Now, that said, I mean, I guess I would consider a spoiler something that, I guess sometimes a spoiler for me is like an opinion. Like, if I know, like, if someone tells me a book is bad, or they think a book is bad, or they think a character is terrible, that can feel like a spoiler. Like, it can feel, because, like, in the most literal sense, it feels like, are you trying to spoil this book for me? Just let me get in there and find out how I feel about it, because I might not feel the same way as you. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that they mean spoiler as in like someone tells you who the murderer is, somebody tells you that a character dies, somebody tells you, about a big plot twist, and then you just feel cheated. And I mean, there are some books where that's important, and I won't even say what books those are because in a sense that's a spoiler, right? Like if you know a book has a big twist, that in and of itself is a spoiler. But I have other opinions on that, so we'll just go on to the next question because, well, number 2, does the genre you're reading impact what you consider to be a spoiler? Well, I guess so. But I think it's true across the board that yet again, if something is really well executed, oh God, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. like, oh, if something is really well executed, even a murder mystery, that I will still watch the murder mystery or read the murder mystery. I will still be pick up clues or be able to have the same feeling of suspense or atmosphere, like if the author has done a really great job creating an atmosphere. For example, like my favorite Tana French, like I've reread several of her books, and my favorite one is probably Broken Harbor. And it's mostly because of the setting and the scene and the place where the crime takes place and the feelings that surround that and the circumstances that surround that. It's just so well done. And that creates, every time I've picked it up, I've felt it. And so I know what happens. I know the end. I know mystery solved. So I don't know. I don't think the genre really does matter as much as yeah, I don't think the genre really, it doesn't matter, because the same thing could happen in literary fiction. If I, like, let's say there's a book and a character dies and it's a beloved character, uh, and I know that that character is going to die. I'm still going to, if the book is well done, even if I know what's going to happen, all the attendant emotions are going to be there. Um, I guess the only thing, I was going to say, maybe I'm not, maybe the whole waiting for the shoe to drop kind of thing, or the other shoe, or I don't know what shoe, but there's a shoe, it's going to fall, it's going to bang on the floor. No, it'd still have that feeling. So yeah, I guess not. I guess genre doesn't matter. Let's see, number 3. All the best bits are in the trailer. Sometimes a synopsis can be too detailed. Do you research books prior to reading them, or do you prefer to know nothing about the book? I, the thing, this to me, all the best bits are in the trailer, or the synopsis can be too detailed. I don't, I, I don't find that synopses usually are too detailed necessarily, because again, it goes back to how something is executed versus what I know. Like, I may know what's going to happen, but I don't know how it's going to happen necessarily. I don't know how the author is going to get me to that thing that happens. And so that doesn't necessarily bother me. Now, what does bother me, like the trailer has all the best bits, or the synopsis is actually misleading, that bothers me. That drives me crazy. When I think I'm going to be getting a certain kind of book or a certain kind of movie, it's like when you see a trailer for a comedy and every funny line is in the trailer and the rest of the movie sucks, is not funny at all. And then actually then that kind of makes those lines not that funny because the rest of the movie's not that funny. Or something seems really sinister, or a book seems like it's going to be about this, but it's actually about that. And you're like, I just wasted my time. I wanted to read that book. I wanted to read the book that's on the synopsis, not the book I got. That's a different kind of thing. That's being spoiled. That's it being spoiled, but it's not necessarily a spoiler, if you know what I mean. I don't know. Discuss amongst yourselves in the comments. Let's see, number 4. Sometimes the introduction or translator's notes can spoil the ending, especially for classics. Has this ever happened to you? Yes, it has. I don't read introductions, though, as a rule, because of that. And also because I think that, especially when you're reading a classic, or really when you're reading any book at all, especially if you haven't already read it before, then I think you should go into the book the way the reader goes into the book. Like the way the original reader would have gone into the book. So there was no introduction when the book was published in whatever decade it was published in or whatever year it was published in. And so I don't think you should have that knowledge either. Can that make a book more difficult in some cases? Yes, of course. The introduction might give you some historical context or some other information. But I think that sort of having your brain open and free is a good way to go into a book. Now, I will say, in the cases where I have read the introduction before the book, like not long ago, I picked up a book I hadn't read for a very long time. It had an introduction by the author. Some of you will know what book this is just by this description. And the author, in this introduction, it was like a new edition of the book. And in this introduction, the author spoils a major plot point that I had forgotten about. And I was pretty angry. It didn't ruin the reading experience for me at all, but it did kind of make me like, why would you put a major spoiler? It was a spoiler. Why would you put this major spoiler, or why would you include this major event in the plot? Here in your introduction, why would you do that? So it's really irritating. So typically what I do is I go back and read the introduction after I've read the book, because there's no way that it's going to get ruined for me. And do I research books? I'll read book reviews, and sometimes book reviews give things away. That's okay. I'll watch a video. Sometimes people give things away and don't even realize that they're doing it. You know, it's okay. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. I also do, though, avoid author interviews until I've read the book, because authors will give things away. Authors will, or whoever is interviewing them will give something away in the questions. And then the way the discussion happens, then you kind of know. And I think in that case, it's more like you know a little bit more of the secret sauce, because you know what the author was thinking about what they were trying to do or accomplish. And that can be spoilery to me. So no, I tend not to research books. I tend to just like read a synopsis, or see, hear someone talk about a book, and if they're excited about it and it sounds like it's going to be good, then no. And if it's a book by a favorite author, then I typically am just like, I'm going to read it, because that's one of my favorite authors. So I don't get in my own way in that way. Let's see. Oh wait, I just mixed up 3 and 4. I kind of mixed up 3 and 4. I kind of continued 3 with 4. I guess it all works together. Number 5, name a time somebody spoiled a novel for you. It was that time I picked up that book. The author has the introduction in that book, and the author spoiled a major event in the book for me. Thank you so much, author. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I don't want you to. But see, then if I don't tell you, it could happen to you. Look, just don't read introductions until you've read the book. We'll just make it a blanket rule. It's a blanket rule. Okay. Number 6, have you ever spoiled a novel for somebody else? Not intentionally, no. No. I really try very hard not to do that. And sometimes it makes me a little crazy. Sometimes I feel like I want to talk to you guys about a book, and I'm just sitting on my hands so much. Like, I really wanted to talk about the shards. I really wanted to do a video about that, but I was like, what can I say about that book that won't be a spoiler? Because there's so much to talk about in that book. There's so much to pick apart. And am I even spoiling it for you by telling you that? I don't know. So I think that's one reason why I find doing, wrap-up videos are easier, because you can just talk a little bit about things. But sometimes I think, it's tough, because I started the channel because I wanted to talk about what I was reading. And then I think, well, I can't talk about it if you haven't read it too. And I know there are some people on BookTube who are like, listen, there's going to be spoilers, or they give, they're like, I'm going to talk about the whole book. or you can skip to this point if you don't want to hear about this part. I just am not that organized and too too lazy. Maybe I'm just too lazy, but I'm definitely not organized enough to like control myself. If I really start talking about something, if I get really, excited or passionate about it, wanting to talk to you about it, then I could spill the beans without meaning to. So, yeah, that's tough. It's tough, right? And, the thing is, like, in some cases, excuse me, like, in some cases, there are things that happen at the very beginning of a book, and I don't consider those things spoilers. I consider those things setup. That's the setup for the book. So if something happens in the first couple of chapters, it's a setup. It's not a spoiler. But there are people who are like, don't tell me. No, don't tell me that so and so dies on the first 10 pages. No, that's spoiler. That's a spoiler. It's like, it's not a spoiler. It's a setup. So I guess it really depends on how you go about it, right? It all depends on like what your approach is and how you really like to go in. Some people really don't want to know anything, and anything that they know beforehand, even if it's in the first line of the book, they feel like it's a spoiler. I am not one of those people. I'm really not. Like, if I really want to know, or if I'm really curious, like if some book reviewers make me really curious, like, well, what they're kind of hinting at something. Well, what is it? What is it? And I might have to go look it up. I might have to go find that author interview or whatever and see what I think. I don't know. I'm curious. But like I said, it doesn't really. I'm not somebody who books are not easily ruined for me. Even the author who ruined it in the introduction, I'd already read the book before, and and then I went on and I still had all the feels. I still had the full experience of the book. I was not cheated in any way, shape, or form. So yeah. Let's see. Number 7. If spoilers ruin novels, are there some authors or genres you can't reread? Spoilers don't ruin novels for me, so no. I can reread anything that's really well done. I can rewatch anything that's really well done. I mean, I am one of those people who, I know what's coming, and if the movie is really good at being suspenseful, I'm still like, I can't watch it. I can't, don't, I think that's just, that's the hallmark of something that's really well done, is that you still get the full experience each time you go back to it. You get maybe even a better experience because that suspense that builds like with a mystery or anything that has that kind of like, or psychological suspense. And the first time, it's like you know what you're getting into, and maybe you're kind of tense and you're like, oh my God, oh, when is it? I know something's coming, I know. And it almost like you're not paying full attention because you know something's coming, and you're tense enough. And then the second time you watch it, it's an even better experience because you know this thing is coming, and you're still feeling that suspense. What is that? Suspense. You're still feeling it, but you're able to pay more attention to other things people say, other bits of atmosphere, other clues, whatever it is the situation is. Or maybe if it's funny, you catch jokes. I don't know. It builds. The experience builds every time. Let's see. When reviewing, are you spoiler free? Does this limit your ability to discuss? Well, I kind of already answered that question. Yes. I do try to be spoiler free, and yes, I do feel like it limits my ability to discuss as freely as I would like. I have to admit that that's true. I think that it's harder in talking than in writing something. Like when I used to have my blog and I would talk about a book, I would call it Reader's Journal. It's not a book review. It's just me talking about my thoughts about the book and the experience of reading the book. And I I felt like it was easier to navigate. Like I trusted that more. And there have been plenty of times when I've had to stop a video or decided not to post a video because I'm like, you said too much. You just talked too much. What a shocker. But it's one of those tough functions. And I know, like I said, there are booktubers who don't care. I mean, I don't mean they don't care as in they're callous. I mean, they're like, this is my booktube channel. I'm going to talk about the book that I read, the books I read, and I'm going to talk about them. And if you don't want to hear, skip over or don't watch my book reviews, which is fair. And I am not like, I think like Elena Estelle, has a wonderful channel. Like when she does book reviews, she goes deep. She goes in depth, and she's mostly reading literary fiction. And I think some people are of the mind that you can't spoil literary fiction, but I have a thought about that. You can't really spoil literary fiction because it is so much about the author's approach and about character, and not so much about what happens in the plot. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'd like to hear your opinion on what you think. If you think that literary fiction is less able to be spoiled than something like mystery, or maybe even certain fantasy or science fiction, like any kind of genre fiction might be easier to spoil if you know certain details about the plot or the character or what happens to a character, or even sometimes the world building or the mechanics of the book. Sometimes, like with science fiction or with some kinds of fantasy, there are certain mechanics that you can't discuss, because if you talk about how the mechanics of the book work or how of the world work, it can be a spoiler as to how that affects the events of the book, if that makes sense. So yeah, and like I said, that kind of thing doesn't really bother me, but I can see where it would bother other people. And then let's see, I'm giving myself not a question, but I just want to kind of lead on from all of this discussion, because I was thinking about it, and I've been thinking about it since, poor Angelia, she tagged me like 5 years ago, which is, I think that contemporary literary fiction is easier to spoil, and by that I mean like books from the last 12 to 15 years, maybe the last 12 to 13 years, have gotten easier to spoil, because I feel like readers have started to expect twists. I feel like authors have, and readers, that like there's an expectation now that even literary fiction is going to have some kind of reveal or twist or event or a big turnaround that happens, and you can't spoil it. Whereas I think that more literary fiction before, the last, let's say 15 years, or maybe the last 20 years, it wasn't like that. Like, I think you could talk more. I think there were just books that they had solid plots and lots of character development, but nothing hinged on a moment, nothing hinged on a twist, nothing hinged on some big reversal. Just was sort of things going along. And even with some literary fiction, if you figured something out, or maybe even a mystery, if you figured it out, it just didn't spoil it at all. It just didn't feel like, I don't know. And I have to say, this could be a spoiler. If you've been living under a rock, if you do not know that there is a big twist in this book, Gone Girl. I kind of blame Gone Girl, especially for the mystery thriller, but I think that even spilled over a bit into some contemporary fiction and contemporary literary fiction, especially since there's been more blending of genres lately. And then also maybe even in fantasy, I think that having these big events and big, oh my gosh, and oh I can't, cliffhangers, and especially with series, all these things, that it's gotten to be more prevalent in our fiction. Like, I don't know, maybe not, but I think that it's true. I think that I'm right about that. Anyway, that's the tag. I'm done with the tag, and look at me. I did a tag in under half an hour. Who am I? I'm not going to tag anybody. The last one is shout out. Tell us about 5 channels you enjoy and tag them. But I'm pretty sure that every channel I watch has been tagged. And I think everybody's already done this tag. So yeah, like I said, bringing up the rear as usual. That's what I'm here for. Okay, so that's it. If you haven't done the tag, consider yourself tagged. And if you want to answer any of the questions, I will put them in the description box. Please feel free to leave your thoughts. Tell me what you think about spoilers. Let me know what your thoughts are on my thoughts. Let me know what's going on with you. And I will hopefully be able to do a March wrap-up, a spoiler-free March wrap-up sometime soon, and also talk about my April TBR. And I will look forward to that. And I hope that you have a happy April 1st. And don't get fooled. Don't get fooled. All right. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.